All right. We'll give it a few minutes, let some people trickle in here a bit, get comfortable, and let's get started. So imagine if you could access the fastest growing sector in the global economy, projected to reach $9 trillion by 2028. And you didn't need insider connections or institutional wealth to back the companies transforming how we approach health and wellness. Well, you will learn today how the convergence of technology, healthcare, and cultural shifts is creating unprecedented investment opportunities in a few things: in personalized medicine, digital mental health, integrated care models, and even fitness tech. Investing in health and wellness is about being part of transformative technologies that improve lives every day. So, my turn is over. I'm going to pass the baton over to Mike Peri, our host and sort of lead speaker for today. So, Mike, take us all away.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Mike Peri, managing partner here at Alumni Ventures, and I just want to thank you for taking the time to join me today. A lot of interesting things we're going to talk about. So today we're really going to focus in on one of the most exciting and fast-growing areas of venture investing. And this is the rise of health and wellness. This tech boom is not just a cultural shift anymore. It's truly a full-scale economic movement. And in our view at AV, health is the new wealth. And we're investing in the companies that are making that future real. So before we dive in, let me begin with a quick legal note, as we always have to here. So just as a reminder to everyone, this is not an offer or solicitation and is intended for information purposes only. Please, interested investors, you can access our investment materials through our website or by booking a call with us. So we encourage you to do so. All right, moving forward, just talking about the agenda and what we want to discuss today. I just want to let you all know I have about, I would say, like 20, 25 minutes of prepared remarks, and I'll leave a few minutes for Q&A. Thank you to those who sent questions in advance. Always makes our life a lot easier on this side. So with that, let me quickly walk through the agenda for today. So here's what we'll cover. First, I want to do a quick background on myself and introduce me to all of you who we might be talking for the first time. Then from there, I'll do a brief overview of Alumni Ventures and how our model works. Then we'll jump into the meat of the webinar, really why health and wellness is the next tech boom. We'll also dive into some of the major trends and investment themes driving the space. In doing so, I'll walk through examples of companies we've backed. And last, we'll do a quick recap of how AV and the fund actually works and how you can get involved if you're interested. So with that said, I'm going to move pretty fast, but we are recording this and we'll be sending it out afterward. So feel free to go back, rewatch the parts you may have missed. Feel free to read the fine print if you want, and certainly book a call with us if you want to learn more. So with that, we'll get into it here. And before we jump in, once again, I want to formally introduce myself. So hello, everyone. My name is Mike Peri. I'm a managing partner in our Chicago office. And I've been a proud member of the AV family since 2023, feeling quickly integrated into the organization and certainly the larger vision of the company. In terms of my alumni affiliations, it's always nice to start there. I actually hold a master's degree from the University of Chicago's Data Science Institute and an undergraduate degree from the University of Iowa. And although I'm still relatively new to AV, I actually kicked off my venture capital and startup operating career nearly 16 years ago. So straight out of undergrad, I jumped into the world of VC and startups, largely due to job offers vanishing amidst the financial crisis. That was not a fun time to enter the job world, but certainly put me on a very privileged path from here. So after a failed healthcare startup attempt, I was totally hooked. From there, I was working in new venture roles and strategy in the healthcare industry. I then joined the 7Wire Ventures family to incubate Zest Health. While there, I played a pivotal role, not only in raising multiple rounds of financing, but leading the product and analytics of the company and ultimately the vision that contributed to its growth before a successful acquisition. So transitioning from the operating side, incubating in venture, at a venture firm to full-time venture investing. I became a partner at Distributed Ventures. While there, I was leading a lot of early stage thematic investments in digital health, insurtech, and fintech companies. And after about 5 years, I felt the need to go back. I had a little bit of calling, and I returned to healthcare, this time to institutionalize the venture strategy for CVS Health. So I was a lead director on the team. A really interesting experience as I spearheaded investments across the full spectrum. So I was doing both early and growth stage direct investments and fund-to-fund investments. So really interesting experience there. But ultimately, that journey eventually brought me to Alumni Ventures. I'm in a very fun and privileged position here to work with my teammates and you all, where I'm leveraging my comprehensive understanding of both the venture and startup landscape, and just the true operating side to partner with these exceptional investors and entrepreneurs. So thanks all for taking the time. I'm really happy to get to know you all today and then moving forward. Okay, so enough about me. Also want to share a quick snapshot on AV for those that may be unfamiliar or you just need a recap. So Alumni Ventures is the largest venture capital firm for individual investors in the US. We're really proud of what we've done here. We've raised over 1.4 billion for more than 10,500 accredited investors, and we have been in a great position to have invested in more than 1,500 companies, something we're really proud of. And you might ask, what makes us different? And really, it's pretty simple. It really comes down to our network-powered model. We tap into a massive community of alumni, experts, and operators to source deals, open up doors for founders, and ultimately just help our portfolio companies scale. So I often like to say, Alumni Ventures is network-powered venture capital at its best, and it really does an outstanding job of creating a virtuous circle of value. So, at the end of the day, we're building something here great, and we would love anyone and everyone who hears our message today to be part of that story in some way, shape, or form. All right, so, this, beyond our tremendous growth, also want to highlight and take a little bit of time to just say, what we've accomplished. And, we're super proud of some of these accolades to date. From being a world leader in access to venture capital for individuals to being recognized as a top 20 VC firm by CB Insights. These are things we are beyond proud of. So really, call to action here. If you're interested in continuing to see as we grow and evolve, feel free to follow us on LinkedIn, certainly engage with our materials on our website, or reach out to us if you want to learn more about our ever-growing accomplishments. A few more things here. Just want to talk about a bit more on how we operate. So high level as a firm, we're looking at hundreds of deals per month, looking for all types of characteristics in terms of what makes a good investment. But one of these key guardrails is actually looking at the high quality lead investor around the table. And this may come as a surprise to many of you, but at times we're actually learning more from the lead investor than we do the founding team. And that isn't for anything outside of, the founding team is doing their outstanding job of, pitching us, and they're spinning the positives and, where they want to go. Whereas the deeper relationships we built with these lead investors are really helping us understand more of the key risk factors that they're looking at. Aspects of why they priced the deal as they did, or how they intend to shepherd the company to an incredibly positive outcome. And then certainly helping the company overcome those identified risk factors moving forward. So with that being said, hopefully it doesn't come as any surprise that we certainly don't do this alone. Our model at the end of the day is to partner and follow the best lead investors in the world, including the likes of, an Andreessen Horowitz, Bessemer, General Catalyst, NEA Founders Fund, and many others. This is where we often work with them in a great co-investor capacity. All right, so with that out of the way, now for the fun material. I want us to dive deep into AV's perspective on the health and wellness opportunity and why this is such a booming area. So first and foremost, anytime we're looking at some of this, I think starting high level is really beneficial for everyone. And as it relates to this market, it's impossible to ignore the staggering size of it. Globally, the wellness market is on track to hit $9 trillion by 2028. I mean, that is mind blowing, right? This is not a mirage of a market. It's a true, $1 trillion market and growing. And I would say importantly, this is no longer just about, fitness or supplements anymore. It's including a full range of things that are at the cutting edge of innovation and technology, from AI diagnostics to longevity, mental health, food as medicine, or hybrid care models. These are truly once in a generation opportunities to invest in companies that improve how we live, how we feel, how we age, and ultimately just how we feel empowered to take over our overall wellness. So from our vantage point, we're in the middle of a true full-scale renaissance. People don't want to just treat illness. They want to optimize their health. In our mind, it's no longer niche, type market where select individuals are doing this here and there. This wellness move has really gone mainstream. And, consumers of all ages are demanding better solutions across every domain of their lives. And, the last thing to really underpin all of this is with the rise of AI and all the innovation we're seeing, really and truly the technology is finally mature enough to meet the demand of what we're seeing in the market. All right, as we move forward, that's certainly the case. And we often also ask ourselves, like, why now? What else is happening? And I think it goes without saying that health and wellness is broadly thought of as an important investment area, and it always has been. So the question really comes, why now? What's different? What's actually happening? And in our mind, here are some of the factors that are happening today that are really enabling this type of perfect storm. So first and foremost, AI is enabling personalized care at scale. This is no longer one individual taking it into their own hands and doing it. We're able to see it across the entire ecosystem of health. Not only that, but as we take a step back and we think about the patient population, the consumer population we're looking at within these markets, the population's aging. People are really starting to think about this more, and they're demanding new solutions across health and wellness. Not only that, but we're also seeing breakthroughs and widespread adoption in the pharmaceutical world and how we can do different things. So take drugs like GLP-1s, for example. They are truly reshaping obesity, diabetes, and even behavioral health in many aspects. And that's just one example. And then, beyond that, I think anytime, you might be on social media or engaging with the news or listening to a podcast or, reading a forum, and you'll see that the cultural spotlight is really starting to hone in on wellness, performance, longevity, and just really taking health into your own hands. So in our mind, the why now, it really is this perfect storm, right? You have demand, you have innovation, and you have urgency, both at the level we are in terms of investing, but certainly the pull from enterprise and consumer. So then, as we think about it in the lens of AV and why we're talking to you all today, fair question to ask is, okay, sounds good. Why does this matter for us at AV and certainly our investors? And, in my mind, I think the answer is relatively straightforward. First and foremost, the sector is huge. It's growing incredibly fast. This is outpacing GDP, and it's hitting on the things that are most important, right? These are truly kind of mission critical attributes in terms of how we live, how we age, and how we heal when we need it. And yet, a lot of early stage investment in it actually remains underallocated. And that's where we come in. We're really focused on these thematic areas and getting ahead of the curve. We find the winners early, we evaluate them with rigor, And we make investments in these companies before the crowd does. And to us, that's really the winning recipe here. Okay, so going more into aspects that we're looking at that are driving a lot of these hypotheses. I'm not going to read word for word here, but I do want to talk about a few trends that we're watching closely. Starting at the top here, this notion of executive performance and longevity. In our mind, I said this earlier, but this is one of the truest data points for health as wealth, right? I mean, all folks are really thinking about this in terms of their performance individually with their own health, even professionally. This is something that's top of mind for a lot of folks. Another thing that we're seeing thematically in a lot in the market is this notion of sobriety, or I would say sober living, clean living. Consumer trends here are shifting very quickly, and they're unlocking entirely new categories for consumption and what consumers are looking for, what they put in their bodies, how they engage from a nutrition standpoint, or just really at the end of the day, aligning what they want to accomplish with their own health in terms of where companies are, and they're looking for those synergies. Another one, growth driver as a specific example, GLP-1 therapeutics, but really metabolic care broadly. Like I said earlier, I don't think a day goes by without me reading something or engaging with some type of information around the benefits of these new therapeutics, especially GLP-1s. And, for me, it's yes, that's a great innovative breakthrough. But what's even more promising is this notion of how people are taking health into their own hands, and they really want to be empowered with that. Which leads us to, a last example here of a growth driver, which is, in the first few, it's really kind of the consumer driving it, right? They're feeling empowered. And the last one, in terms of, AI enabling technology, it's really amazing because it's underpinning all of these growth drivers, right? And it's really going to change every aspect of how we engage with our own health, and then even across the healthcare system. It's that powerful, I would call it like the hidden layer, right, of the infrastructure that's behind the scenes that allows us to do what it is we want to do with our health, and then certainly for us on the investment side, unlock new opportunities we haven't seen before. Great. So, talking about some investment opportunities here, as it relates to, high growth opportunities we see across the health and wellness ecosystem, I want to highlight just 5 areas today. And they align a lot with what we've talked about earlier. So the first one I'll go through, they're kind of going to be viewed in little case study type exercises, why we're excited about it. And we'll also highlight, where AV's been investing. So the first we'll go into is fitness tech. From there, we'll move into integrated care. The pull through, the third will be personalized medicine. We'll also jump into, I would say, the wellness focused food and beverage, how consumers are engaging, what they're putting in their bodies. And then last today, we'll talk about digital mental health. And, it's important to note that each of these represents huge addressable markets. And, although people have been investing and innovating here, it's still very early in the wave of innovation. So with that, I want to start with fitness technology. And, this is an area I have a lot of conversations with my peers, with entrepreneurs, and even just friends. And, what started off as hey, I'm tracking my steps or my calories, has really evolved, right? Now it's about optimization of your health, the data you're getting, what you can do with it, how you can tweak performance, overall, views on better outcomes. So it's moved beyond what you think of just I have an Apple Watch on my wrist and it's great, it tells me a few of these things. It's really empowering a whole new view of what a consumer can do. And from our vantage point, we've been early here. We've invested in companies that, focus on giving real-time biometric insights to help people recover faster, train smarter, and just live better. So few examples. Oura Ring, I'm sure this is one that rings a bell to everyone. You're probably a happy consumer of it or have seen it before. And it's one of the most recognized, health, sleep, recovery platforms you have. It's used by everyone from pro athletes to executives. And really in our mind, Aura has set the bar for wearable wellness and, wearable health technology. One we're incredibly proud of to have in the portfolio. Another one I want to highlight is a company called Epicor Biosystems. Really innovative breakthrough technology. It's actually a sweat sensing wearable that provides personalized hydration and electrolyte recommendations. And what's fascinating about this is, the use case for elite athletes is clear, and they engage there. They have outstanding kind of consumer partnerships, but they've also moved beyond, just the everyday consumer or the athlete. They're working with healthcare systems. They're working with large industrial and manufacturing companies because, those employees of those firms are often dealing with these problems. So it's a really fascinating view in terms of how, a company that started off as fitness technology has actually evolved really beautifully across sector and is solving a lot of problems. Last one I want to focus on here is Train. Really outstanding, super cool. It's strength tracking app. It's using AI to automatically log workouts. It's building a super sticky user base, expanding into coaching, and just really reimagining what a consumer is able to do in terms of real-time data-driven fitness and analytics. So net, the takeaway here. These companies are creating the infrastructure for human optimization. That's how we really think about it from a fitness standpoint. Okay, moving into, I would say, a little bit of like more the healthcare ecosystem, right? These types of solutions could be essentially designed direct to consumer with the consumer in mind, but they're navigating and partnering through the traditional channels you would see in healthcare, like a health insurance provider or payer. And to us, that's critical for an integrated care model, right? These innovations and care delivery models, they're redefining how we think about healthcare across the delivery system, right? From women's health to complex care to access in the most rural parts of America. That's where we're focused. We really want to back and partner with these builders that are transforming care models and offering, the most comprehensive care from a primary care setting all the way to the most advanced specialty services. So a few companies we wanted to highlight here that we're really proud to be partners and investors in. First is ULA. It's a hybrid maternity care model that blends technology and the personal touch of care just so elegantly. A very beautiful model. Patients receive their OB care that's both evidence-based and emotionally intelligent, but at the same time, it's underpinned by technology and evidence-based views of just what makes the pregnancy experience personalized, and which it really should be. Spirus Health is another one that brings this really great integrated but personalized touch to healthcare. So they focus on complex, chronically ill patients in the home setting. This is really tremendous in terms of access, right? They're tapping into underserved areas where people are living with complex, chronic diseases, but may not have the access for it. So they're meeting the patients where they need to be at the home. And we're really proud here, Spirus and team, they've demonstrated strong results, things like reducing ER visits, closing gaps of care, and just overall improving care quality. The last one I want to highlight here that really kind of brings this all into view is a company by the name of Hopscotch Health. So Hopscotch is a full family primary care model designed specifically for rural America. So they're meeting people where they are, where they don't have access to primary care. And Hopscotch, what's amazing about this, it isn't just about access, right? That is the tip of the spear. What this is really about is building an integrated care model that yields tremendous trust. It really thinks about whole person care. And ultimately what that does is it drives the best outcomes. And we're seeing phenomenal early results in the models of, Hopscotch. So, as you think about integrated care, these are really the companies that are merging tech-enabled platforms with this view of a hyper-personalized or, community-based healthcare system that works for everyone. And then, moving forward, kind of this pull-through and personalization, right? What we talked about previously, more of this care model. Now, in our mind, the personalized medicine view, this is the category where deep science meets scalable software and can underpin a lot of this innovation, right? All of these are designed for individual needs, but at the same time, very scalable across huge populations or areas that people need the most help with as it relates to their healthcare. And we're proud investors in many of the companies in the space. Generate Biomedicines, for example, backed by Flagship Pioneering and other great co-investors. This company is using generative AI to design protein therapeutics from scratch, right? This is truly reinventing the drug discovery process, which is just phenomenal. Another one, really, really cool to think about. And as we got to know more about this company, it was truly, I don't want to say pun here, but like a no-brainer. And I think you'll see why in a second. But, Bionaut Labs, they've built these tiny remote-controlled robots that travel through the body. They could go up through the spine, through the blood-brain barrier, and they can deliver medicine precisely where it's needed. So think, spine disorders or brain tumors, right? Things like a glioblastoma. These diagnoses for individuals that, once you get it, it has forever changed your life, and you feel like you don't know where to turn. Bionaut is one of these companies that's really reimagining, what we can do for patients who do have that moving forward. Another one here is Precision Neuroscience. Incredible co-founding and founding team here. This is truly the next generation of brain-computer interfaces. It's less invasive, more scalable, and just deeply, deeply aligned with the future of neuroscience and neurological care. This category is one, we're watching the future unfold in real time, and one that pushes the boundaries, right? Care, in the company's minds here, healthcare and care delivery is no longer one size fits all, right? It's tailored, it's targeted, and most importantly, it's tech powered and AI powered at the end of the day. So I wanted to bring this one into play here today too for our discussion, because it's a little bit different, but at the same time, it's also very powerful. So in terms of how we think about health and wellness evolving. And it's really encouraging to see how people are being more and more aware of their everyday choices, and how these choices they make ultimately impact their health and wellness, especially in terms of what they consume and what they put into their body. It seems simple in comparison to some of the other things that we've highlighted already, but it's tremendously powerful, right? Consumers want better products and they want them now. And, from the AV perspective, we love to think outside of the box as it relates to this category. So I wanted to highlight a few of these breakout companies that, you may not think health and wellness right away, but as you really understand it, you're like, oh yeah, this plays a big part of it, because what I put in my body and my nutrition is actually a big part of how I think of overall health and wellness. So the first is Goodles. You might have seen this at Whole Foods or Target. I know my little ones love it, but these are, nutrient-packed mac and cheese, for example, with serious brand loyalty. It's fun, it's indulgent, and most importantly, it's actually still really good for you. Another one, is Aquabite. So we think about this a lot in terms of not only like sustainability in the food and beverage space, but also just like a better product for you as a consumer. So this is, sustainable protein production. They're leveraging things like computer vision AI to actually improve fish farming, which is super fascinating to think about. Not only is it lower cost and they have a real environmental impact, but it's also just healthier fish and healthier things that you're putting into your body. Another one more kind of in between this is a company called Med. And what they do is, they develop these interesting clinically backed supplements. And, they can match the clinically backed supplement with the consumer need ultimately. And by doing so, they're able to accelerate recovery, enhance health, and also think about, all the aspects that you might be falling short with in terms of what you are able to consume, or, the supplements you're getting from your everyday decisions. So, I wanted to highlight this this market here because, of the 9 trillion I mentioned earlier, this alone is a multi-trillion-dollar sector that's really being reinvented by what I would call like better for you brands or better for you products that you don't have to sacrifice the experience or the taste or just the overall joy of what it is you're engaging with. So it's something really a little bit different, but like I said, outside the box, but huge category creation that could happen here. And then last but not least, I really want to talk about mental health today. For us, this is truly remarkable because not only can we invest in great, venture scalable businesses, but the integrity of these business models are just outstanding. You meet these entrepreneurs and founders, and you just want them to succeed. They're out here solving huge problems, right? And we love that. We love backing companies that are making emotional and behavioral care more accessible, scalable, affordable. Some investments here we want to highlight: Sondermind, incredible platform, matching patients with therapists and, supporting in-network care for all the major health payers, scaled really rapidly and continue to deliver high engagement. And it's really, a function of just the incredible personalized therapy service they've built. Another really cool platform solution here, MD Ally. They integrate telehealth direct into 911 dispatch systems. So think of like, instead of an ambulance, some calls might actually be triaged into virtual care. By doing so, it's faster, it's cheaper, it's more appropriate for many scenarios, and it's really helping that person in a very critical time of need get exactly what it is they need, right? That anxiety is already through the roof, and they are truly an ally, right, to all sides, helping them get to where they need as fast as possible. Another one we want to highlight here is a company called Boulder Care, and they provide addiction treatment via virtual care, right? Their outcomes are industry leading. They're serving populations that often feel left behind by traditional care models, or folks that, they might feel that, they might be embarrassed or they don't know where to turn to, right? Solutions like Boulder are breaking down those barriers and allowing access to great quality care and once again, helping people with what they need the most at the time that they need it. So with mental health, it's undeniable. the demand is real. And I think, importantly, the stigma is also breaking. When you map those two together, these are truly the platforms that are, transformational. And, we love backing and delivering, care at scale, and these are the companies that are doing it. So, with that, I, want to step through a handful of things here. Please, once again, reach out if you want to learn more. Follow us on LinkedIn or go to our website, book a call with us. These are areas that we're constantly looking in, but just want to give you a snapshot of that. So, elevating back up, just want to talk about, why invest now, why this makes sense. Hopefully, the material today has already proven a lot of that. But if it's not already clear, just want to take a pause, take a moment here to really distill why now is the best time to invest in the space. And we truly believe that this is the moment, right? I think I hit on a lot of this, but first and foremost, the technology is mature, it's caught up. The culture has shifted, the mindset is there, the stigmas are breaking. Certainly the capital movement is there, right? Investors are in the space, they know it is, just mission critical, right? These are areas that don't go away. Healthcare and health and wellness, it's something we live with our entire life. And most importantly, we're still early enough to capture asymmetric upside, right? Really back companies in the early innings, and we're still seeing a lot of innovative breakthrough. From here, so one more thing before we wrap. I just want to remind everyone, once again, how we work with a large, diverse group of investors. As I said in the beginning, thousands of folks we're working with. So with that, just want to talk briefly about who this fund is built for, how AV thinks about this. And I don't plan on going into each of the specific personas here, but please feel free to read it. But what I do want to state is pretty simple, right? At Alumni Ventures, we serve a wide range of accredited investors, and we've designed the fund to meet people where they are. So for example, you might be a successful professional or executive who wants exposure to high growth private companies, but doesn't have the time to vet every deal, right? That's what we do for you. We build the portfolio, we manage the process, get you into the opportunities backed by some of the best lead investors in the world. Or maybe you're an operator or founder, someone who understands venture, but wants to diversify across sectors and let a trusted team like us drive that deal flow, right? You've built companies, but now you're actually ready to back the next wave of companies. But you want to do that without leading the charge. That's where we come in. We also see many younger investors, professionals in their 30s and 40s like myself, who are just starting to build their exposure to alternatives, right? Venture is truly a long-term game, and this is a great way to start planting seeds in the next generation of market leaders. And of course, we work with just the pure enthusiasts, right? Those who simply want to see the very best deals to include into their broader investment portfolio strategy, right? And we make it easy to do so. So, whether you're investing personally through a trust with retirement dollars or through an offshore vehicle, we've built this to be frictionless and accessible for you. At the end of the day, our goal is to truly make world-class venture investing available to anyone who's ready to back bold founders solving real problems in health and wellness. So with that said, just want to reiterate, we're here for you. We would love to be your venture partner and guide you through this journey. So with that, before we wrap up, I actually want to answer a few pressing questions. We had a handful come in before time, so thank you for that. So I'm gonna step through a few of those real fast, and I think they're really curated to a lot of what we talked about in terms of broader health and wellness. So the first one here I'll read is, let's see here. Okay, how does AV and the team, how do you guys evaluate and mitigate, call it like FDA and other regulatory risks that are particularly relevant in health tech investments? So first and foremost, it's a great question. It's something every venture investor earlier in their career, especially if you're in health and wellness, has to understand. And at the high level, we approach this with, I would say, like with a healthy mix of caution and confidence. So first of all, I already hit on this earlier, but it's always helpful when you're co-investing alongside firms with like deep expertise in both clinical and regulatory diligence, and who certainly have strong track records of navigating FDA pathways. So it's helpful to know you're not alone on that capital journey. We have others at the table who've done that. But we also think about it, structurally in terms of, favoring things like milestone-based funding strategies, right? Where capital is tied to progress potentially on, let's say, like a clinical trial or some type of approval, or maybe it's a clinical endpoint. So you really think about it in a way of like, what are the stage gates that we're looking for, and how you can move the uncertainty of this business into risk ultimately, and you can mitigate that moving forward. And then importantly, we diversify across risk profiles, right? Not every company in the portfolio is subject to FDA approval. Some are, some aren't. There's different degrees on which approvals there. So we like to balance, deep tech science with faster moving digital health platforms and infrastructure plays too. So this is something that we really think about in terms of how we ultimately evaluate and mitigate a lot of these regulatory concerns. The second question, we've got a few of these. I'm going to bucket it kind of broadly because there was a lot around AI. So to summarize, I think a lot of the investment, or the question around our investment is, as we think about thematic investing in health tech, and the evolution of, and rise of large language models, right? Like, how has that impacted us? Are we shifting focus from, let's say, like hardware to AI-driven solutions in some of this? And I thought about this, and not a precise answer, but it's really philosophically how we think about it. And AI, first and foremost, is absolutely part of our thesis. And we're already investing in companies that, use the question, for example, that use large language models and other AI tools to, let's say, triage care or generate insights or accelerate drug discovery, right? That is that hidden infrastructure, that AI infrastructure, those large language models. They're just built AI native. They're doing that. But with that said, we haven't abandoned things like hardware when it comes to health and wellness either, right? Some of our most exciting companies blend AI with physical components. They can be interfaces or delivery systems or biosensors. So I would say this view of evolution, is AI and software, everything we're focused on. If you moved away from hardware, it's not either or, right? We're investing across the spectrum, right? We're investing in smart platforms where AI is a feature, not just a headline, and where it improves outcomes, access, or economies in a measurable way. Couple more questions here I'll answer. This is an interesting one. We had a couple, thoughts come in on this. So as we think about large tech companies, let's say an Apple or Google or an Amazon, for example, and they're making significant pushes into healthcare. A lot of the question we get, and this one in particular, is, how do we ensure our early stage investments can compete or potentially find an acquisition path? And, with the rise of AI and some of these large, incumbents in a great position, we tend to think about big tech less as competition and more as like a natural strategic partner, or an exit path, right? In fact, many of the companies we back are built with partnership or acquisition in mind. Big tech needs to innovate at the edge, and they can't build everything in-house is the reality, right? Startups are known to move fast, iterate quick. They can focus on specific slices of care or maybe consumer behavior that the giants, the big tech companies, they can think about it, but maybe they can't reach it effectively. And most importantly, we're investing in the companies that are ahead of the curve, right? And really strategically well positioned to either partner with and or be acquired down the line. So that's how we think about, big tech today, especially in the health and wellness side. Okay, last question, switching gears a little bit, because today it was both talking about this health and wellness boom, but at the same time introducing more aspects of AV and how you can all partner with us. So a couple questions in terms of like how we can invest. One in particular that keeps popping out is, can I invest through my retirement account? Short answer, yes, absolutely. We accept investments via self-directed IRAs or other retirement accounts. It's actually a pretty common structure for many of our investors, and our team can help walk you through that process. This team here on the page it's outstanding. We also support, trust accounts. International investors can go through offshore vehicles, a lot of things. So with that, I know I ran a little over today, but I do want to thank you all for taking the time. This is something I'm incredibly passionate about. AV is also. So please, dig into our materials on our website or book a call with one of our senior partners here if you'd like to learn more. It's been a pleasure sharing a lot of this with you today. So with that, be well, stay safe, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Okay, Mike, thank you so much. That was a very informative talk you just gave here. Health is no longer just a system, it's a lifestyle. And innovation is making it more personal, accessible, and impactful than ever before. So thank you for joining us today. And if you'd like to explore how to invest in this movement and maybe more, scan the QR code that you've seen on your screen today or visit av.vc to connect with a few members of our team. Until next time, stay well and stay curious.